Okay, so we're going to learn how to center clay. What we did is we wedged clay and we turned it into a nice long rectangle. From that we cut 3 sections vertically that were sort of these symmetrical squares. If they weren't quite square, let's say they're a little flat, then your job is to compress the clay by slamming it like this until it looks like a square. We're then going to paddle in those edges with the soft, fleshy part of our palms to compress the clay and get rid of those little angles and sharp edges. You need to make sure that both your clay and the wheel are dry when you first throw the clay ball down. If there's water on the wheel, the clay will just slide off. So once it's nice and round, you're going to locate the center by using the concentric rings, and you're going to pick it up and slam it down hard, right in the center. You're going to turn your wheel on and spin it. And sometimes you can tell if it's really far off or if it's close enough to the middle. Let's say it was really far off and looked like this. You would stop the wheel and you would slide it into position. This is a ghost wheel, so it doesn't fully stop. But all of the other wheels work really great. So we don't want to pick it up because we want to keep that suction between the clay and the wheel itself. Okay, so it's really important that it's stuck on there well. The next thing we need is speed and our hand position. So there are 2 methods, and I like to alternate between both, and you can too, to find what works for you. So you need lots of water when you're throwing on the wheel. We don't touch the clay until our wheel speed is what we want it to be. For centering, we need medium to fast. This hand is going to touch the side of the clay and be on a slight angle, tilting inwards. This hand is going to connect and do a little karate chop, and it's going to touch from the middle to this outer edge here. So I have my hands in this little mountain shape. It's really important that you lock your elbow to your ribs or to the splash pan. For me, it's easier to use my body weight, so I'm going to lock it into my rib here, and I'm going to push in the line of my bone. So in this instance, all of the pressure with this hand is going in this direction. All of the pressure with this hand is just going straight down. So my elbow's locked into my gut, and I'm leaning forward and using my body weight to compress the clay down and to force it to change shape. By keeping my hand really steady, I'm transforming the shape and centering the clay. Okay? Let's say your clay is really wobbly and looks something like this. The way to fix that is to cone up. With 2 hands together, we're going to push in this direction towards 12 o'clock. So with 2 hands, I'm going to push a little bit that way. I'm going to close one hand fully around that dome, and with the other hand, I'm going to cover it and squeeze. The clay has nowhere to go, so notice that it starts to rise. This is a cone. This is called coning up. As soon as my hand makes contact with this part, I start again at the very foundation, at the base. So hands are down, one hand cups the other, and I'm pushing in that direction. And I'm squeezing. The clay is getting thinner, so my little diameter is also getting smaller here. Okay? This is really as thin as you want to go. It should be from thick to thin, just like a mountain. If it gets too thin here, it's going to rip. So make sure that your pressure goes tight, 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 and then as your thumb knuckle reaches this point, you're done, okay? So now we're going to cone down. To do that, we're going to make sure that we're making contact with the top here, and I'm going to change from this to this flat palm. So I'm just pushing the top down until my hand reconnects with the wheel. So your cone down is what really helps you center. Okay, so my hand has now connected here again, and now I'm using my body weight to help me even it out. So I'm keeping my back nice and straight, otherwise it's gonna hurt if I have a hunched back. So I'm pushing really hard with the left hand and really hard with the right hand down. This hand's pushing this way, this hand's coming down. The other technique is the two-handed method. For that, it's kind of like a cone up. Both hands cup around and make contact here and here on a nice gentle angle. Not like this, but more like this. And you control the top half of that dome with this portion of your thumb, okay? So for this move, I'm pushing this way and down with the thumbs, using my body weight to help even it out. Your fingers do absolutely nothing in centering. They only come into play when you're squeezing or coning up. So here's the cone up again. I'm pushing in that direction, and I'm squeezing the clay, forcing it to rise. When my thumb makes contact with the top, I'm done with that one cone up. Again, from the base, pushing towards 12 o'clock, controlling the top. Now I'm going to cone back down. Now, you really want top speed. This is a little bit slow, so it's going to fatigue you more if you use slow speed. If you use fast speed, the wheel is going to work for you and you don't have to use as much of your strength. So I just increase the speed a little bit. It's great to use the slip that accumulates on your wheel. It's better than the water, actually. And I'm making sure to connect with only half of it. If I put my hand over the whole thing, it's going to end up with a dip, which we don't want, okay? So let's say we accidentally made a dip, okay? The way to fix this hole would be to change the angle of our hand. So instead of our hand being down towards the middle, you want to turn it on a slight angle like this and get rid of that hole. If it collapses and the hole shuts, you're going to end up having a giant air bubble in the middle, which you'll then feel when you make that hole in the center for pulling and making a cylinder. So my left elbow is locked into my ribs. It's actually right in my hip bone. I feel it. And my right hand is pushing down. Your clay is centered when you can hold a few fingers and they no longer bounce around. It sort of just glides through. So down here it's off center. You can see that finger jiggling. So that means I need to push harder down at the bottom to change that shape. If it gets dry, get more water or more slip so that the clay doesn't hurt you and so that your clay does not rip. Now if there's a small portion at the bottom that's just being stubborn, this whole top section is now centered, but this little part down here has a little bit of a wiggle. So that means that it's a little bit wider on one side. What you do is you use this tip or this sort of trick that I've discovered. You use your wooden rib, turn it on an angle and just shave that portion off to help you even it out quicker. Add a little water. You can only do that once you're really close to it being fully centered. It's the very end. And usually it's hard to center the bottom, okay? And then you just go ahead and add some water or some slip and give it a little push until it's in the center. Our goal is to create a nice short dome that's about 1 to 1.5 inches. So once it's centered, all you have to do is put more pressure from the top and just a little bit from the side to make a nice short dome. The next step is you're going to let your thumb float until it finds the center without wobbling. Take your wet sponge and slowly plunge that thumb down the middle and squeeze water into the center because it's very dry and then it'll end up ripping clay. Your nails have to be short for the wheel. You can't have any long hair, loose clothing, or loose jewelry hanging down that can cause an accident on the wheel. You have to make sure to tie everything back and to have nice short nails, or you're just gonna shred the clay. You won't be able to throw with long nails. Okay. And when you think you've gone down far enough, you're going to shut your wheel off. This is a ghost wheel, so it's going to keep spinning. You're going to go straight down the middle, put your finger down to the base, pull it out, and I know that I have a 1/4 inch there, okay? So I'm going to compress that hole shut just by holding my finger over that hole in the middle. And now that I have that nice little volcano in the center, I'm going to use my hands in tandem together, not here and here, that makes no sense. Together on one side. You want the clay flowing through your hands, not towards your hands where they can crash and your fingers can accidentally jab your pot. So we're going to slow our speed down to medium. We don't need that super fast for centering. That's a good speed there. And you're going to pull with a few fingers. I'm using my middle, my ring, and my index finger. And I'm pulling the clay out to the side. When this hand meets this hand, I'm going to switch positions so that you can see. When this hand on the outside, it's always lower because you have a base in the inside. So our fingers are always like this. When this hand finally reaches the same spot as your fingers on the inside, then you start to pull the walls. And by that I mean you're squeezing and slowly guiding your fingers to the very top. When you get here to the rim, you're going to compress with the free finger. It could be your index or your thumb, doesn't matter. And you're going to compress the rim to keep it centered even at the top. Okay, I like to use a slip. Never put your fingers down here while the wheel is in motion. It can get caught in the machine. So again, starting from the middle, pulling out to the side. My hands are in line with each other, and now I'm squeezing the clay and guiding it up to get some nice height in the walls of my cup. Okay, starting from the middle, out to the side. This is the third pull. Slowly guiding that thick band of clay up through the walls to get some height and nice even walls. You always want thick to thin. If it gets too thin in the middle, it's going to rip. So let's say it got a little too thin here. That means you need to focus on this top portion to make it match the rest of it. Lots of slip. Slip is your front. Start from the middle. Drag the clay out that direction from the inside. Both hands are in line. I'm now squeezing and very slowly pulling the clay and guiding it up. As I get to the very top, a finger is on the inside, outside, and one is compressing the rim. It's very important that you compress the rim. Lots of slip. I'm going to do another pull, starting from the middle. Drag it all the way out to the side, and very slowly guide that clay and get some height in the wall. So this was just a 1 pound ball of clay, and it gives you about an 8 ounce or 10 ounce cup, okay? One more pull, maybe this is the 5th or 6th, I'm not sure. Slowly guide the clay up. Our goal is to make walls that are 1/4 inch or even as thick as a 1/2 inch. Now to finish this cup, we're going to take our wooden rib tool, and because this is slightly flared out, I can actually change the shape by collaring in, just by making this little circle, just like I did when I was coning up, and slowly closing it in, okay? If I want this to pop out a little more, I can actually push from the inside and just put a finger here to create a nice little round belly. So you can alter the shape of your pot. Now we're gonna trim off this flared edge down at the bottom. So with this hand here and this hand here, you're going to catch the clay that gets stuck and rides up the tool, okay? And you're gonna scrape it off into your bucket. We just don't want it to stick back onto the pot and trap air, so you have to be ready to catch it. Okay, just put it right in there. Clean the wheel. So we're just doing a little trimming on wet clay. If it's dry, it's going to chatter or bounce around. So make sure there's enough water on your tool, or you can just add it to your pot. Every time you trim, you're exposing dry clay under that wet, slippy surface. Okay? You can also get a really nice wall by pushing your rib into the pot and pushing from the inside to change the shape to make it more cylindrical or straight. You need to make sure there's no slip on the inside because it will disintegrate your cup, sorry. We're going to now clean the wheel with a clean sponge. I'm going to clean my hands of all the excess slip. I'm getting ready to take this off the wheel and transfer it onto a wear board. You're going to take your wooden knife and trim the bottom. So first your tool's like this, and then it's trimming flat like this. It's a really nice sharp tool, so try not to blunt your tip. So my wheel is spinning slow, medium slow, still on the medium side. And finally, we need to compress the rim. So if you have a really nice cylinder that you'd like to keep to use, make sure that you absorb all the slip from the inside, or at least the very bottom, and round out the lip or the rim, clean off the bottom, shut it off. This one doesn't shut off. Okay, I'm gonna shut this one off. Okay, with a nice clean wire, you're going to shorten it. Try not to fold your wire because that'll ruin it. Slide it clean through by pushing that wire down. Your pot might shift a little bit. But make sure that wire is flat down. You can put a thumb here to catch it. We're going to put some water on the wheel. You're going to bring one of your small wear boards here. Actually, this one's pretty full. Let's see if I can move something. Yeah, okay, that one's dry. And then you're going to slide your pot onto the water, and you're going to use a hand like that, maybe one underneath, and slide both hands out so that you don't deform it nice and easily, because it can easily warp or become deformed. Okay? And you're gonna start with your first, second, third, and fourth, and label them so that we know what's what. Keep them in your cubby to dry, and then clean your wheel. You're going to use this tool, and you can do it while it's spinning or you can do it while it's off. You're going to clean the top of the wheel, the side of the wheel, and everything in your splash pan. If there are big chunks of clay, those need to go in a clay recycle bin so that we can reuse it, okay? If there's a lot of slip, the slip needs to go in the bucket that's in the sink, closest to the corner of the room. This is going to require a few buckets of clean water, so you're going to be moving back and forth until your wheel, your stool, and the floor is clean. We have a sponge mop for the floor. Okay? So just practice that.